Hello, St. Louis. It has been quite a day. It has been quite a 24 hours. The St. Louis Blues recently had their head coach, Craig Berube, fired. And because of that, a lot has happened with drama and it's been a whole mess. I'm going to dive into what's going on, my thoughts, and maybe some of my opinions that have changed. This is all coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about St. Louis and our Blues. One, I did this stream live like 5 minutes ago, and I literally went 5 minutes with my mic being on mute. I did get a new microphone. If you're on YouTube, you can see I have a high definition camera now. So the quality has improved tremendously. What has not improved has been the emotional roller coaster that this week has been. Not just for me, not just for you, but for the players too. Believe it or not, players have feelings. And on today's episode, I am going to talk about Jordan Kyrou, the emotion and drama that is essentially consuming the fan base, and Are We Feeling Blue, which is my weekly Friday segment. I have to do it still. It's a tradition here in Locked On Blues, so I'm going to continue to do it. So I know what the answer will be on that one. I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I am live on YouTube, by the way. So if you're on YouTube, I'm smiling because it is so nice to see some familiar folks that have been tuning into this podcast. I want to make my first statement because I got some heat on social media. And I feel like this week, my episodes are less kind of, I'm going to talk about this, that, and that. I'm going to talk from the heart, okay? On yesterday's episode of Locked On Blues, I talked about Jordan Kyrou's comment. And I said, if you're not happy here, you can leave. In no way did I ever encourage anybody to go to that game last night against the Ottawa Senators, which the Blues won, by the way. Robert Thomas, 2 goals. In no way did I ever encourage anybody to boo Jordan Kyrou. Never. I would have never sat down and encouraged you as a fan of a team to boo your player. You can be upset with your player 110%. But I would never encourage that. My reaction to that comment, it was because I was getting ready to film the episode. I see all these comments coming out from Elliot Friedman and all these people that work in the NHL. And it was essentially Jordan Kyrou, as you know, saying, he's not my coach anymore, which did get taken out of context. I can agree that comment just kind of blew up. And then everybody thought that Binnington's comment was related and directed towards Jordan Kyrou. So the battle of the Jordans, not really. Squashing that. I can agree. I can sit here right now and say, yes, I overreacted. I am upset. I'm still upset. I obviously hate the fact that Berube is not here. I think that comment coming out just kind of stirred up all the emotion that everybody here in St. Louis has been feeling. But I would never encourage anybody under any circumstance to boo a player, especially a player on your own team, ever. So I just wanted to put that out there that I saw some people saying that I was a part of the problem. I never would have encouraged that, and I don't stand behind it. I think it's okay, though, to share criticism of players. I think that's what being a fan is. I think being a fan is literally being there for the team, being there for the organization, being there for the players through the good and through the bad times. But as a fan, you have a right to be upset about some decisions that are made. I was watching the game, and I was at a loss for words. I was obviously very happy how the Blues were playing, but the introductions came on. And of course, there was booing for Jordan Kyrou. Now, initially, when I heard that, I was like, okay, I can understand. I'm not saying I accept it, but I can understand that the booing would happen then during introductions. Okay. And I did put out a tweet and I did say LOL because I'm like, this is ridiculous because I just knew how the night was going to go. The night continued on and on. And every single time that he would touch the puck, you would hear boos. And I felt sick to my stomach. I hate to say this. I had to put the game on mute because I could not take hearing all the boos. So I cannot imagine how Jordan felt out on the ice. That was not easy to watch. That was not easy at all. As a Blues fan, one of the things I pride myself most in is how awesome our fan base is. And your anger shouldn't be directed towards Kyrou. It should be directed towards Armstrong. It should be directed towards the management, not a player that just made a comment that got blown out of proportion. After the game, Jordan was interviewed, post-game presser, things like that. And it's difficult to say because it was really hard to watch, but essentially Kyrou was asked about how he felt the game went with all the boos from the fans. And Kyrou got emotional. He was visibly crying, and there's nothing wrong with crying, by the way. Crying is an emotion. It is okay to cry, and emotion means that you care about something. So I don't want anybody ever bashing or shaming Jordan for crying and showing his emotion. I think that he was very vulnerable. I think that he was being completely honest and transparent, and that this did bother him. Who wouldn't it bother? That is insane. Your coach gets fired. You make a comment that got blown out of context, and now the entire night you're getting booed. It's yeah. There's sometimes no words to describe kind of how infuriating and how badly I felt for Jordan. I think that fans are really hard on him. I've always been a supporter of Jordan Kyrou on this podcast. I've always defended him because I do think that a lot of people bash him. And I understand maybe he isn't having the best season, but he's the one player people just love to bash. And I don't understand it. Maybe it's because of all the expectations that were set for him. I'm not sure. If you have an answer, let me know on YouTube. I genuinely don't have an answer for that one. What I can say is this. I never have felt so conflicted when it comes to everything. Was Berube maybe the problem? Did he lose control of the team? And I just didn't want to see that because I saw a coach that got us the cup. There is a lot of thoughts. There is a lot of back and forth in my head now that it is Friday, obviously a couple of days after everything. And it makes me question, what is this team's identity? Was the team really struggling that much internally? And if that's the case, yes, a new coach is usually the solution. But I think it's just the shock of maybe not knowing everything that goes on inside the locker room and having this news break after the loss to the Red Wings, and a comment was made, blown out of proportion. And now I'm just like, you know what? Maybe we don't know everything. I know that all along I don't know everything that goes on, but maybe there was a dynamic problem in the locker room. I don't know. And I'm not going to know the answer on that one. So if you have any thoughts or concerns about what I just said, do you feel, I hate saying do you feel better now that Berube's gone, But do you feel like you understand why he is gone now? Or do you still feel like, I don't agree with this decision? Let me know what you think because I am now conflicted. I'm going to tell you about Game Time. So I love Game Time. Game Time allows you to buy last minute tickets. They have flash deals, zone deals, and it's always easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Okay. The best part about Game Time is that you can get views from all of the seats that you possibly want. So I'm only 5'2". So for me, sometimes I have a hard time seeing if I'm some rows back. But with Game Time, I can see where I'm going to sit before I buy the ticket. And they always have deals, and Game Time loves saving you money. Like, they're literally obsessed with saving you money because they don't have any of those high fees. They make sure that with every other ticketing service that their price is the best. So this is what I need you to do. You need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Okay, let's get back to the sad stuff. I was like, oh, a read. And now I'm like, okay, now we're going to have to talk about this. So there is obviously a lot that has happened with the Blues. There's been a lot of drama. There's been a lot of the fan base kind of going at each other. Kyrou deserved to be booed at. Kyrou didn't deserve to be booed at. Fans going at each other saying, you're wrong. And it's just been a mess. I think that Drew Bannister is a good guy. He did very well with the Thunderbirds. And last night, they showed Drew after him getting his first win as an NHL head coach. This is his first time coaching in the NHL. Interim coach, obviously, the St. Louis Blues now. And I can't hate the man. And I said this all along. This is a great opportunity for him. It is not in any single way Bannister's fault that this went on. It's not. You cannot blame him. I thought that what Braden Shen said was very classy on congratulated him. But it's one of those things where Banny deserves respect. He doesn't deserve hate. He doesn't deserve to be compared to Berube because guess what? He's not Craig Berube. He is Bannister. He's not Chief. And I think that once you realize that some of the decisions that get made are from people in higher positions, higher power, you realize that, at the end of the day, they're just people doing their jobs. So I think that he speaks very highly of the team. I was very hard on him about the line changes yesterday because I was like, you're going to really change, Jake Neighbors from going to the first line to the third line. But he said that he wanted all the lines to maintain physicality, speed, good puck control, and they did last night. Maybe he sees something. Maybe this is like a clean slate for the Blues, right? Now, I'm not going to be naive and say, oh, the Blues are going to win the cup now. No, I still think that there's a lot to see with this team. We don't know everything about Banny yet. We don't know how the team is going to continue to respond to him. We don't know. This was the first time seeing him too for the Blues. For the Thunderbirds, on the other hand, I can say that he did a phenomenal job and the team was uber successful for him in the AHL. But the team needs to play for him. They need to play and they need to be motivated. You cannot be sad anymore going onto the ice. Okay? We're done being sad. I hate to say we need to move forward. We need to move on. But at this point, what is it going to do to the team if they just dwell on the fact that Berube's gone? It's not going to, it's not going to change anything. He's still going to be gone. The Blues, and when I say the Blues, I'm talking about the players and I'll talk about the fan base in a second. The Blues, they need to continue to win. They need to continue to work hard. They need to really improve that power play, continue to improve the penalty kill even more so. They need to play better defense. There is a lot that needs to get done. I still think that they're going to make some moves at the trade deadline. Obviously, they already made some moves with Bertuzzo, but Bannister strikes me as the kind of coach that the guys are just going to be able to be open and honest with him. That if there's the problem, I could see them just going into his office and saying, "Hey, I need to talk to you about this." Like he just seems like one of those guys. Um, I don't know that I feel like the players can really adapt to. I feel like sometimes it's a little bit difficult to put into words, maybe about this team. And what I mean by this is that Jordan Kyrou made a comment, and I know I touched on this earlier, but maybe, and I just had this like realization right now. Maybe he's excited about Banny. Maybe he's like, you know what? This is my coach now. This is a guy that I think I can play better for. Maybe this is a guy that can help me with my game more. I don't necessarily know exactly every single thing that Kyrou was thinking, but maybe he didn't mean it from a place of harm towards Berube, but he was just giving Banny kind of like that, you know what? Moving forward, that's, he's not my coach. This is my coach now. I don't know. And yes, a couple of comments did say that Banny is a former player. Yes, I did know that. I mean, he has been all over, right? And I think it's one of those things where, so was Berube at one point. He was a former player, but I think that I don't know if Bannister is going to stay next season. It depends on how the season goes, but a lot needs to be done. So St. Louis, I know a lot of you guys are watching right now on Locked On Blues here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you do so, it helps me out. It helps the channel out. And most importantly, it allows you and I to talk about some Blues hockey all the time. And I love my new setup, by the way. This was a huge investment. And I'm like, okay, the camera that's HD, the light, the microphone. This is what I like. I mean, this is podcasting one-on-one. I'm like, okay, like, woo, I'm like, this is nice. Okay, so before I get into an Are We Feeling Blue on YouTube, let me know, are you feeling blue? How was this week for you? How do you feel today on Friday at 6:55? Let me know. But before we get into that, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Are we feeling blue? How was this week for you? Okay, let me start with myself and then I will go to you. This week sucked. This was a bad week. I am not a negative person. I tend to try to be a little bit more positive, but this week sucked. This was the first week where not only I was upset, even more so with Doug Armstrong, I was upset with the fan base coming at each other and fighting. I don't like any of that drama. That is beyond us here in St. Louis. We're not that type of fan base. And that really made me upset. I actually could not fall asleep last night due to all the things I was seeing on social media. I was sick to my stomach seeing Jordan Kyrou that emotional and upset. That really ruined a lot of my feelings. But there's a small, and when I mean small, glimmer of positivity in me that wants to say I was happy about Robert Thomas last night with his 2 goals. I'm happy that the Blues won, and I am excited about what Drew Bannister can do for this team. It's a conflict, right? Because as upset as I want to be, I know that's not going to change anything going forward. I know that the team is still going to remain, the way it is. They're still going to have defense that struggles. And I don't know if a coach will be able to fix all of the Blues' problems. But hey, if they want to play better for him, like I'm all for it. Like I'm not going to tell them not to play better, but it's one of those things that it's a very interesting type of dynamic going on. And I hope that the Blues, they get their act together. So Jeff said this. It showed how passionate St. Louis fans are, but also it sent the message into the team in Kyrou that you need to be better. I think that there is a difference between being passionate versus being too hard on a player. I think coming on a podcast and saying, if he doesn't want to be here, then don't play here versus actively boo. Like, that's ridiculous. You can't boo players on your own team every time they have the puck. What are we doing? Like, seriously. But I understand the frustration because of that comment. I can understand and not agree with it, okay? I can understand and get why there was a distaste in people's mouth, but at the same time, I obviously don't like what happened, and it created just so much drama. I've never seen this much drama, and people on YouTube, I wanted to address this. I got some comments because I put on social media on Twitter at Lockdown Blues and my own Twitter at Haley T. Simon. I said, while I understand people being upset, I don't agree with him getting booed every time he touched the puck. And a bunch of people actually said that they were going to unsubscribe to my podcast here on YouTube because they thought that he should be booed and I was saying the wrong thing. And basically said to me that if I wasn't supporting Jordan Kyrou being booed, then I'm not a real fan. Then unfollow me then. I have nothing but love for this team. This is my team. This is the team that I am passionate about. This is the team that I am a fan of. And I'm not afraid to use my voice. I come on here every single day. I put myself in front of a camera, in front of an audience, in front of listeners, and I know what I'm getting myself into. Not all of my opinions you're going to agree with. Not everything I say on this podcast you're going to agree with. But the one common factor that I thought we all shared is that we're all fans of the Blues. And to say that my fandom isn't real because I think that a player shouldn't get booed all the time is representing us wrongly. I'm like, that's the right way to represent us. You should never, ever, ever, ever have to deal with booing a player on your own team throughout the whole entire game. And I don't know. That just bothered me that people said that when evidently I just don't want the drama. I don't want a player to be that emotionally upset. And that's my opinion. That's my thought. And you can disagree with it. I just could not believe the fact that people said they were going to unfollow and unsubscribe because I said I didn't agree with the booing. So that was my rant on this week. I asked you on Twitter, as always, I always put this up. Was this week a good week? I have to do it. I have to stick with my tradition here on Lockdown Blues. I know you're going to say, Haley, like we all know the answer, but you would be surprised. So, oh, did I spell? I did the wrong thing in the poll. Oops. But no got 67% and basically got the rest. It wasn't a good week. It wasn't. I mean, yeah, it was bad, but it's like, but you have Banny and it's like that hope with him. I don't know. I'm like, don't count it out yet. This season, it's not halfway done. There is a lot of hockey left. I just don't want us as a fan base to come at each other again. I didn't like that. It made me very upset just to see the arguments going on and all the drama and all the emotion. And we're all seriously, as fans, invested in this team. you listen to this podcast daily. Or maybe you're just coming here for the first time, but we clearly are passionate about the Blues. And with all of this drama, and this is the time where, as fans, we need to come together. You know what? Kyrou made a mistake. He said something that he shouldn't have said. Let's move on. Let's support number 25, because at the end of the day, what is it going to do for him to deal with people booing him that are supposedly Blues fans constantly, consecutively, nonstop? That's going to mess with him. And mental health is a thing. Okay. I just want to put that out there. Mental health is a thing. And seeing a player so distraught after a game, my first thought was, I seriously hope he has a good support system right now, because I could not imagine. He said this was the toughest game that he's had to play through. Not because of the physicality, not because it was the Ottawa Senators, but because his own fan base was against him. And I understand he made comments. I'm not taking that away. But again, it was blown out of control. And I can even admit that maybe I overreacted. Okay. But we can't allow our players to feel this way, to feel that bad after a game. It's really unbelievable. So there's a game tomorrow, and hopefully things will get better. It's so weird for me, right? Because I'm like, not like, obviously I'm not happy, but I'm like, okay, maybe this is a clean slate. I don't know. It's a really strange week for Blues fans right now. Tomorrow the Blues host the Dallas Stars, so that's obviously gonna be a tough game. So I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know how much Bandy can do for them on that. But then after that, on Tuesday, the Blues, they head out to Tampa Bay to take on the Lightning. And yeah, so a couple tough games coming up, as we knew was going to happen. Oh, I feel like, what's funny? Well, not like, ha ha ha, I'm so funny. But usually after the games, I do like a little post game like recap, and I didn't do that today. And I'm like, do I just do you want me to do it now? Should I do it? I feel bad because I usually do that in the beginning of my episode, because I always like to update you all on what went down in the game. And I didn't do that. And I'm like, this is very unlike me. Hale, what's happening? So in the first period, Robert Thomas scored, and he was assisted by Folk and Buchnevich, and it was 1-0 St. Louis. In the second period, Robert Thomas scored again, getting his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Justin Folk and Torrey Krug. Now it was 2-0 St. Louis. A couple minutes later, Braden Saad was able to score, assisted by Nick Leddy and Kasperi Kapanen, 3-0 St. Louis. A couple minutes after that, halfway through the second period, the Ottawa Senators were able to get on the board, unfortunately leaving the score 3-1 after 40 minutes of play. In the third period, Pavel Buchnevich was able to get himself a goal, and it was assisted by Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. And then the Senators scored with a couple minutes left. But the most important thing about that last goal in the third period was, I think Booch said this after the game, that he really wanted it to be Jordan that scored that goal because of how difficult he's had. So it's one of those things. NJ Dave said that he is a Thunderbirds fan, but he's also a Philadelphia Flyers fan. And I do cover the Flyers too. I'm very open about that here in Locked On Blues. I live in Philadelphia. I cover the local team here, but my fan base, my fandom is with St. Louis. So yeah, I'm very used to upset fans all the time. So it's one of those things, but that's why I love doing this podcast so much, because you can be anywhere and be a St. Louis Blues fan. I am going to the draft in June, obviously covering the St. Louis Blues, baby. And it's one of those things where I'm so excited just to be meeting everybody, or in this Blues atmosphere and all that. But yeah, I get judged all the time here in Philly. They're like, wait, you're a Blues fan? And I'm like, yeah. I'm wearing my blue note. What's good? But it's funny because I am like uber invested with hockey in general. So it's one of those things where, yes, you can live anywhere and be a fan of a certain team. I was in West Virginia for a while, and out in West Virginia, there were so many of us Blues fans, and it was like a little St. Louis, but out somewhere else. So that makes sense. And it was a really cool atmosphere. To be in. There's a lot of Blues fans out there, so it was nice. All right. So let's end this episode on a positive note because, again, we're the blue note, positive note. You know what I'm saying? I am so thankful for every single one of you for supporting me on this podcast, for, keeping up with me on social media. I am so thankful. It was a really hard week here in Locked On Blues, for me especially. And even with some of the comments I was getting, the people unsubscribing because they didn't agree with my opinion. That was tough because I try really hard to make this podcast as enjoyable as possible. And I got, better equipment this week, and evidently everything went down the hill this week. I love talking Blues hockey with you, and you make this so much fun. Every single day when I get home from my job, I'm like, I cannot wait to sit down and talk about the Blues. This is my happy thing. You know how people have like their happy place? This is my happy thing. So at the end of the day, yes, this has been a tough week for us, a tough week for the Blues players, for the fans, for everybody involved. But this week has also shown me how special you have been ever since I took over this podcast. I'm not going to lie, I was like a little nervous. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to like me if they know that I'm like living in Philadelphia, or are they going to judge me? And the more you've gotten to know me, the more you know who I am and about my fandom, you've accepted me and you really allowed me to make this podcast something special. We're under 200 subscribers away from 1,000. I told you at 1,000, I'm doing a giveaway. I do not care. I want to give back to you. So at the end of the day, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to talk about the Blues, to talk your ear off about the Blues every Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekends too. And Neil, with my new setup, I cannot wait to do some more things because this is pretty freaking cool. I can say freaking cool, right? I'm allowed to say freaking cool. It's not a curse word, so it's cool with my new setup. So yeah. I love you guys. So I will talk to you this weekend, obviously, because the Dallas Stars are coming to town, unfortunately for us. And it's going to be a good game. So take it day by day, but just remember that this is the best fan base in the world. We're the best fan base out there. Seriously, there is nothing like our fan base. And never forget that we will be okay. The team will be okay. But most importantly, you will be okay. And if you're upset about what's going on, tweet me. I am here for you because this has been a difficult week being a St. Louis Blues fan. On that note, I'm going to head out. I'm going to make some dinner, and maybe I'm going to watch the Cup run again, some of the highlights. I think I'm going to do that tonight and kind of give one last salute to Chief. All right. I'll see you guys on Monday for sure, on the YouTube at least. And as always, let's go Blues.